Homestead blog. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to make some mozzarella cheese. So I get asked when I share this on Instagram quite often, how do you make your mozzarella cheese? And I've tried so many recipes. So I have tried just different recipes all along. I use the same ingredients, but I use a different method. And this has been the simplest mozzarella cheese I've ever made, the quickest mozzarella cheese I've ever made, and the most delicious, if that's even a word, most delicious, I'm not sure, but definitely this is a winner. So what you're going to need is, of course, your raw milk, and so if you don't have raw milk, you can do this with pasteurized milk, but we love making raw milk mozzarella cheese. You're going to need a big pot, big enough to hold your 1 gallon of raw milk with a lid. You're going to want a cheese thermometer. So any thermometer really will do. You just want to be able, your thermometer needs to go up to 110 degrees. And then you need a heavy duty slotted spoon. This is actually a cheese making spoon that I had gotten off of Amazon. It's stainless steel, super heavy duty with the holes in it. I'll link all of this stuff in the description. You're going to want a strainer, and then the 2 ingredients, which I don't have over here, but I will grab before we get started, is citric acid and rennet. So you're going to need both of those, and that's what takes this raw milk and turns it into a delicious cheese. So let's get started. So the first thing that you're going to want to do if you are using raw milk is to skim off your cream. So this mozzarella is much better without the cream. Honestly, the cream just really goes out with the whey, and you don't want to waste that good quality heavy cream. So I always just skim it off using a little ladle here and put it right into another jar to make into butter or ice cream or something like that. And so I do have a reel, I think it is, on Instagram showing how I skim cream. But basically what you're going to do is just skim off. You can see where the cream line is, and you're just going to skim very gently, dipping your ladle down, not getting too low that you get into the milk. And you're just going to skim off all that good white thick cream off of the top. Once you think you've gotten most of it, then you can stop. But I try and get as much cream as I can because cream is so delicious. Okay, so I got all of my cream in my jar here, and I'm just going to set that aside for now. Now what you're going to do is take your 1 gallon of milk, and you're going to go ahead and pour your milk right on in to your pot. Now at this point you want to bring your acidity level of your milk up. And so how you accomplish that is with citric acid. So I just have a little bit of water here, cool water. I don't really measure it. It's like about a 1/4 cup, but I don't really measure it. And I'm going to put 1 and then 1/2 of a teaspoon of citric acid in here. And I'm going to stir it up until it's dissolved. Now I'm going to take my slotted spoon, I'm actually going to move this onto the pot, onto the stove, and I'm going to go ahead and take my citric acid and my slotted spoon, and I'm going to pour it into my milk. I'm going to give it a stir, going up and down and kind of around, just to make sure it's completely incorporated. Now at this point I'm going to turn my stove on to about medium, and I'm going to let this heat up to 100 degrees. So you want to watch it, but you don't need to stand over it completely. That's when your thermometer comes into play. My little tag that attaches it broke off, so I don't have it attached, so I just stick it in and take it out every time I need to. But right now my milk is very cold. It came straight from the fridge, and so it is below 55 degrees. It's going down as I speak. So I know I have a while before it's going to be up at 100. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave it here and wait for my temperature to come up to 100 degrees. Okay, so while our milk is heating up, let's talk about our next step. So I'm going to check this real quick. I haven't checked it recently. And we are just at 80 degrees, so we're almost there. The next ingredient that you're going to need to make your mozzarella is rennet. And I use animal rennet. I find that it's more consistent than vegetable rennet. If you are vegetarian or vegan and do not eat animals, then you'll want to find the vegetable rennet. But I do find the animal rennet is definitely more consistent. And what this is going to do is it is going to separate the curds from the whey. So you really can't skip this ingredient. You need to have it in it in order for your curds to form and your cheese to form. So what mine calls for is 1/4 teaspoon per gallon. So there are different strength levels of rennet, and so most, I would say, commonly are 1/4 teaspoon. Some may be half. So just whatever rennet you buy, make sure to take a look at it and see what it calls for. Add more if yours says more. So I'm going to add 1/4 teaspoon of rennet. And you want to be very careful not to get too much, because it will make your curds very squishy and squeaky if you do too much rennet. And I'm going to put it in this little bit of water that I have, just like I did with the citric acid. Stir it around and set it aside until my milk and citric acid gets up to 100. We are just about at almost 90 degrees right now. So just a few more minutes until we hit 100, and then I will turn my stovetop off. We are right at 100. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and turn my stove off. Now don't put your thermometer away quite yet, because you will need it. I'm going to stir my rennet just to make sure it's in there. Now I'm going to take my slotted spoon, and I'm going to go ahead and pour it through my spoon. And I don't really know why, other than the fact the only thing I can think of is that it evenly distributes into the milk, because as soon as that rennet hits the milk, it's going to want to start coagulating, I think is how you say it, and make those curds. So I'm going to do the up and down motion with my spoon, and kind of around and up and down. And now I'm going to stick my lid on and let it sit here for about 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I'm not going to touch it, not going to come near it. And when you come back, you will see your cheese. Okay, so I have removed my lid, and it has been about 15 minutes or so. Now I'm just going to stir it, and you can see now my cheese, sometimes it stays to the top and sometimes it goes down to the bottom. I really am not sure what the difference is and why that happens, but it still makes a great mozzarella. So I will say this, I have tried many and I've had complete flops, but you really can't tell when you put it on a pizza. So if you have a flop, it'll be all right. You can still eat it. Anyways, okay, so it has separated from the whey. That's the yellowness is the whey. And I'm gonna go ahead and turn my stove back on. And I'm just gonna keep stirring it. And I am going to get my curds and my cheese up to 110 degrees. Okay, so before you put the rennet in, you heated your milk and all of your ingredients up to 100 degrees. So it's not going to take very long to get up to 110. So I just kind of try and scrape some of this off so that it gets all together. And it'll just start forming together. Now, if yours was sitting on top, there are recipes out there that call for cutting the curds and all of that. I never do. I am kind of like I take a recipe, I look at it, and then I do my own thing. I mean, I follow some stuff to the T, but not very often. And so, to me, taking a knife and cutting my curds and then stirring them and doing all those things is just an added step. So I don't do that. I just I just stir my curds, even if it's there on top. If they're on the bottom, I stir my curds. But they're going to start coming together just like this. And that's what you're looking for. So it is really stretchy and sticky, but that's all part of it. Okay, so I'm gonna test it here, and we are already at 110. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn my stove off. And I am going to get another pot of water and put it on the stove to start heating up. 1 gallon milk jug. I save my whey because whey is really, really great for in the garden. You can use it as a natural fertilizer and just kind of like a boost for your plants. So I will take this 1 gallon and I will take and put it in 2 half-gallon jars and fill those half-gallon jars up the rest of the way with water. So you want a 1-to-1 ratio of water and whey, and I'll go dump it on all of my plants, and it really just gives them a nice good boost in the soil. So I always try and save my whey. Okay, so now I have my pot of whey and cheese, and I will just go ahead and pour it in here to catch my whey and to strain my cheese out. And there is my lovely cheese. Okay, now I'm just going to grab my cheese and I'm going to squeeze it. I'm going to take my colander here off. And I'm just going to squeeze it out until I can get any extra whey out. And you kind of almost, it starts to turn a little bit glossy, almost kind of plasticky. And that's where you want it to be. I always do this part over my sink. I do everything after the heating up over my sink just because it does get kind of messy. And once I've gotten as much whey out as I can, I just go ahead and flatten this out. Your cheese out like this. So you have like a disc, and I will stick this in my pot of water that's on the stove, heated up, and that water is about 150 to 160 degrees. You're going to want your curds to be super, super hot for the next step. If you are sensitive to super hot things, you're going to want to put on some rubber gloves. I've tried them with the rubber gloves. I feel like it sticks to it, and I don't like the feel of it. So I deal without it. But if this is too hard for you and it's hot, because you can see it's very, very hot, then you are going to want to put on some rubber gloves. Okay, so now is the time where we're going to salt it and we're going to stretch it. Alright, got it all. And so I just kind of lay it out flat like this, and look at how nice it looks. And I just put a little bit of salt on it. I don't measure. And then I just kind of start folding it in, stretching and folding, stretching and folding. Now, if it starts to tear, then it's not hot enough. And so like I said, I don't like the gloves, but some people definitely need them, and that's totally fine. So I'm just going to keep stretching and folding until my salt gets all the way in. The salt is really kind of to taste. Sometimes people like more saltier cheese than other. And I give it a couple good stretches and folds. Once it starts to kind of tear a little bit, I know that I can't get it back in the water because I salted it. Then I will just kind of form it into a ball like this. And pinch the bottom. And now I've shaped it just like that. And then I have just these little Pyrex bowls here, and I go ahead and stick it right in there with my cap, and you have mozzarella cheese. I can't tell you how many recipes I have used, and they were a lot more extensive than this. This has been the best tasting cheese and the easiest that I have made, and it really takes no time at all other than waiting for it to the milk to heat up to the temperature that you need. So making mozzarella at home is very simple and very easy. You can do it. If I can do it, so can you. And go make yourself some mozzarella cheese. We'll see you next time. Take care.